Today we are going to discuss the arteries and nerves of hand. The hand has two arteries, the ulnar artery and the radial artery. We are going to discuss these arteries in detail. On the palm, the main blood supply is through the branches of ulnar artery and the radial artery. These arteries combine to form two arches. One is the superficial palmar arch and one is the deep palmar arch. The superficial palmar arch is mainly formed by ulnar artery, and this arch is completed on the lateral side by the superficial branch of the radial artery, and the deep palmar arch is mainly formed by the radial artery, and on the medial side it is completed by the deep branch of the ulnar artery. So basically the main supply of hand is through these two arches. The one is superficial palmar arch and the other one is deep palmar arch. We'll discuss these one by one. So starting from the superficial palmar arch, this one, ulnar artery enters the palm, gives a small deep branch, and then continues as the superficial branch, and it gives off one proper artery, proper digital artery, and three common digital arteries. All these are going towards the digits and supplying them. Now it continues towards the lateral side and is joined by the superficial palmar branch of the radial artery to form the superficial palmar arch. So the superficial palmar arch is formed at the level of the middle of the metacarpal bones. It gives off one proper digital artery and three common digital arteries. And these digital arteries are connected by the palmar metacarpal arteries, which are branches of the radial artery. Now coming towards the deep palmar arch. The deep palmar arch is mainly formed by the radial artery. So the radial artery enters palm. It continues, it gives a small branch, the deep branch, with the superficial palmar branch, which joins the ulnar artery and forms superficial palmar arch, as I've mentioned earlier. And its main continuation goes inside, passes through this anatomical snuff box at this level, and then it enters the palm. It gives off a princeps pollicis artery to the thumb. Then it gives off a radialis indicis artery to the index finger, and then it gives off three palmar metacarpal arteries which join the digital branches of the ulnar artery. Hence, this is the deep palmar arch, which is also supplying the palm of the hand. Now, the radial artery, as I've mentioned earlier, passes through the anatomical snuff box. The anatomical snuff box is bounded laterally by the abductor pollicis longus and extensor pollicis brevis muscles, and medially it is bounded by the extensor pollicis longus muscle. The radial artery passes deep inside the anatomical snuff box, and then it passes between the two heads of the introitiae and enters the dorsum. In this picture, we can see that the main supply of the medial aspect of hand is by the medial artery, the superficial palmar arch, which is formed by the ulnar artery, and the main supply on the lateral aspect is by the radial artery, which is forming the deep palmar arch. The superficial palmar arch, as I've mentioned earlier, gives off one proper digital artery and three common digital arteries. And the deep palmar arch branches are the three palmar metacarpal arteries, three perforating digital arteries, and a recurrent artery. In this picture again, we can see this is the dorsal metacarpal artery, this one. This is the proper digital artery. This one is the superficial palmar arch. Now we'll briefly discuss the nerves of the palm. Nerves are the ulnar nerve mainly and the median nerve. The ulnar nerve is supplying the medial 1.5 fingers and palm of the hand, and the median nerve is supplying the lateral 3.5 fingers and palm of the hand. Furthermore, the ulnar nerve supplies the muscles of the hypothenar eminence. In addition, it supplies the adductor pollicis muscle. It supplies all the introitiae, the dorsal introitiae and the palmar introitiae, plus it supplies the third and fourth lumbricals. So all these muscles are supplied by the ulnar nerve. Median nerve supply is such that it supplies cutaneous supplies to the lateral 3.5 fingers and palm, plus the nail beds on the dorsum as well. The muscles which are supplied by median nerve are the muscles of the thenar eminence, which are the flexor pollicis brevis, abductor pollicis brevis, and the opponens pollicis. Plus, it supplies the first and second lumbrical muscles. So this is the supply of median nerve. Now, if ulnar nerve is damaged, it causes ulnar claw hand. What happens in ulnar claw hand is that the lumbricals have a function that it causes flexion at the metacarpophalangeal joints and extension at the interphalangeal joints. So what happens is when the third and fourth lumbricals are not functioning properly due to damage to ulnar nerve, what happens is that the fourth and fifth digit, which is the level of the third and fourth lumbricals supplied by ulnar nerve, the action that normally happens here does not occur. So the position of the hand is such that there is extension at the metacarpophalangeal joints and flexion at the interphalangeal joints. So the position of hand is like this claw. This is again showing the ulnar claw hand. Median nerve injury, if occurs, it leads to flattening of the thenar eminence because median nerve is supplying mainly the thenar muscles. So it causes flattening of the thenar eminence, and this is called the ape thumb deformity. That's all for today. Thank you.